Hey guys, and welcome back to the United Star. And we have Prashant with us to talk about a topic that is being discussed by a lot of the Manchester United fan base, and that is Bruno and Ronaldo. How are they going to do together? How are things going to go when it comes to set pieces? How are things going to go when it comes to just being a captain on the field? And obviously, Prashant, you've discussed Ronaldo's impact on the squad. We've made a video on that. We've spoken about formations. We've done all this. But talking about these two players in specific, in the Euros, when we saw the Euros, obviously Ronaldo did outscore Bruno. Ronaldo did put in one hell of a performance, but Bruno was overshadowed, right? Bruno didn't fit the system. Bruno didn't manage to produce the same performances he did for United, which leads to the question, can that happen at Manchester United now? Because if I had to ask you the question that is Ronaldo our new penalty taker, you would obviously say, most probably say yes.
I don't think there's any doubt in that.
Yeah. So that leads to a lot of discussions as to how are things going to go. So what's your thoughts on whether we're going to see a similar equation that they have in Portugal come to United, and would that be an issue?
See, I think there are two, three things that we have to consider here. One, the first thing is that for Portugal, Bruno plays a slightly withdrawn role. He's almost playing the person who recovers the ball and then tries to get it forward. So I don't know how suited he is to play that role. But having said that, for United, we saw in the Leeds game as soon as he came in, you could see sort of how he commands the ball, how he looks to try to, get involved in the game as much as he can and how direct he is. But post that Leeds game, the next two games that we've seen when we've played a sort of midfield three, so to speak, or we've had Matic sort of in the midfield, we've seen that Bruno falls back a lot more. And obviously the assists or the goals have not come in those two games for him because he's again playing that ball recovery kind of role, and Pogba is sort of the more advanced sort of. I know he plays on the left, but sort of the midfield player. And Bruno dropped back to play a little bit with Fred in the Wolves game, and in the sort of Southampton game, he needed to cover for Matic as well. So in that sense, he went a little missing. So I think it'll be very interesting to see what formation we decide to play. If we play the 4-3-3, then Bruno is probably going to become a little more sort of workaholic kind, try to recover balls in the midfield and pop it ahead. So that could happen. The other thing you have to keep in mind, if you play a 4-2-3-1, then I don't see any problem. In fact, Bruno could even play off Ronaldo as a second striker almost, like Lampard did with Drogba. And we could see that his goal contributions obviously will dwindle because of no penalties, but they will at least remain like, 12, 13 goals is fairly decent, 11 to 12 goals. Maybe he's already got three. So let's say another 10 goals across the season, I think would be a fair return. Another 10 to 11 goals, I think can be expected if he plays that position. And also, I mean, you have to remember that someone has to assist Ronaldo. Now, with the likes of Sancho, Ronaldo, and Rashford ahead him, Bruno will be able to pick a lot more of the passes, and he will now be playing it to the likes of these three instead of James or Martial. So these three will actually be able to convert the chances as well that he is creating. Martial, we saw, was very wasteful last season with many chances Bruno was making, especially with the ball over the top. Rashford was not at his fittest, so let's hope he's at his fittest. Mason Greenwood is also looking lethal right now. And hopefully, with sort of these four players, he will also get more of a sort of freedom to pick passes because all of them are quality players. So we might see more interplay, more directness even from Bruno, that he knows that he can play that pass to Ronaldo, even if it's a little off, Ronaldo can make the most of it. So I think it can go either of these two ways. I personally think it will go the second way because Bruno, we know, is a fantastic player. And I know he didn't have a great Euros, but I think that's also down to fatigue because he had played so much football. He looks fresher already now. He is doing the hard work. And I think I think he'll go the second way where he will be involved in the game. He will be making those key chances, creating those key chances. Obviously, Ronaldo will take the penalties. Most likely he will take the free kicks, even though I hope he doesn't take free kicks because, well, he just doesn't score from them. And Bruno could be taking probably free kicks from maybe the sort of angles where he can put the ball in for Ronaldo to head it or something of that sort as well. I mean, we saw, let's say, for example, when Aguero was at City, and how De Bruyne was able to use him because Aguero is such a master at creating space. Now we've got probably the greatest player in terms of creating space. So I don't see any reason why Bruno will not be able to find him and rack the assists up and put in influential performances.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. And, the 4-2-3-1 with Bruno playing behind Ronaldo makes a lot of sense because when I think of Ronaldo, how much ever he provides, provides in terms of goals. I don't see him as the player that presses the opposition way too much, something that we really want to do. And that's where Bruno can come in that number 9 position and press the keeper. But, you're talking about Bruno's lack of goal involvements in terms of scoring goals, going from, let's say, 20 to 10, not being the main man anymore. Do you think that can cause an issue in the changing room when it comes to things? Because when we look
Not
at
at all. Not at all.
when
Not
I
at
mean,
all.
the
Sorry,
only,
go on.
only reason for saying that is when we look at Bruno, and since his arrival, he's been the main man, right? Like before Bruno, it was all eyes on Pogba. Since Bruno came, the pressure went off Pogba, went on Bruno, and it seemed like Bruno was thriving in that pressure. He was scoring those goals. Obviously, he's no more the main man at Manchester United. The main man is Cristiano Ronaldo. The main thing that Bruno's job is going to be is to serve it on a platter to Ronaldo, and then think about his own goals and his own possible achievements that he can make. Do you see an ego issue coming in there with the full changing room, or not really?
Uh, I don't think so, because at the end of the day, you have to see who is taking over from Bruno as the main man. This guy is not someone Bruno is going to go and fight with or sulk around. I mean, he himself has come out and said in previous interviews where he's been asked that, okay, for Portugal, if there's a penalty, who's going to take it, you or Ronaldo? And he's basically dismissed that question as idiotic because, I mean, it's like, how can I take one when he's on the pitch? Like, it's not possible for me to do that. So maybe mentally, I don't know if he feels that he doesn't need to impose himself as much as he needed to before, then that could be bad for United. But other than that, in terms of the power, so to speak, I don't see anything changing, because for him, for him, if anybody else comes in and maybe there's a clash of egos, but here there's nothing like that. In his mind, Ronaldo is the greatest footballer to have lived on the planet. And there's no sort of there's nowhere where he is going to go out and say that, oh well, I have a problem with Cristiano Ronaldo. That's not going to happen. So I don't know if mentally he feels like he's not the main guy and he doesn't need to impose himself on the pitch because Ronaldo is there. That could work against us, but having both Bruno and Ronaldo sort of shouting at players and being in the face of the players and the referee, I think it's going to be great for us. And also, to be very fair to Bruno as well, he had a bad Euros, yes. But before that, in the qualification phase and in all the sort of build up to the Euros, him and Ronaldo worked brilliantly for Portugal. You could make that argument that apart from Ronaldo, the entire Portuguese team had a very bad Euros. You can look at Ruben Diaz, you can look at Diego Jota, you can look at all these different players. They did not have a good Euro. So it's very sort of wrong to judge their combination based on those 5 games, because everyone was looking off in that Portuguese team.
Mhm.
Before that, Bruno has been very much involved in goals and assists in for Portugal.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So when we're looking forward to the Newcastle game, right? Another topic that's being discussed is obviously the 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, which you discussed, and how Bruno and Ronaldo fit in that. Where we're looking at Ronaldo up front and Bruno. If we're looking at the 4-2-3-1, Bruno in that number 10 position and making that interchange. But as you mentioned, does the 4-3-3 just withdraw Bruno a bit when it comes to the attacking front? Because
Yeah.
obviously defensively we aren't that sound. So
Yeah.
what I'm trying to get at is when we think at Bruno, do we need to now think of him as a player that would probably just give us 10 goals rather than thinking of a player that used to give us 20, 25
See,
goals?
he's not going to give us 20 goals for sure, because once you take away the penalties, you have to take away 5 or 6 goals. I am saying 10 goals from now to the end of the season, because he's already got 3. So about 13 to 14 goals from a person who's playing as your number 10 is, I think, is an acceptable return. If he gets 15 goals, I think that'll be a fantastic season. This is league goals I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
I think you can easily get 10 more goals in the next 35 games. It's definitely possible.
Yeah.
And that is a very acceptable return. I don't see any reason as to why. Why I wouldn't take that 15 goals, about 13 to 15 goals, and that's as much as he would have got if you would have taken his penalties out last season. So I think that is very fair to. I think that's a very fair sort of tally he can get. And this is considering he's gotten a hat trick in the first sort of game.
Mhm.
So I think it's a very fair tally to take. And now that Ronaldo has come in, I think we should not play the 4-3-3 at all. I think we should stick to the 4-2-3-1. At the moment, Rashford is anyways out, so Pogba can play on the left, Bruno can play, McTominay, Fred can continue. And once Rashford comes in, then we have to try to, fit Pogba, Rashford, and the sort of McFred combination in some way into the team. Because with Ronaldo, if you play the 4-3-3, I think you lose out a lot, like you said, on the press and on that tracking back. Here you get there's a chance of getting overrun in midfield. But I think here you have a lot more solid sort of Bruno, McTominay, Fred. All three are very sort of physical and aggressive throughout the game. And then you've got Ronaldo up front with Pogba on the left and Sancho on the right, or Rashford on the left, whoever it is.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So to end it, can we more or less say that the Bruno Ronaldo relationship would be something very similar to the Kevin De Bruyne Aguero relationship that grew in Man City?
I
Or
would go one step ahead and say it could be like the Lampard and Drogba relationship. I'm looking at it more from that perspective, to be very honest, because I see Bruno more like a Lampard-like player who's very direct, who's very sort of one single-minded, and I think he's got. I think he may not have sort of the finishing ability that Lampard had, but he has the ability to get in the positions that Lampard did, and I think he's got a better sort of to pick out that through ball. I think he's got more options. I'm not saying he's a better passer, but I'm saying he has more options. I feel like his vision and in terms of playing that pass, it a lot of times we've seen that it goes wrong, but he has more options. So I do think that I'm looking at more from a Lampard, Drogba kind of a situation rather than an Aguero De Bruyne situation.
fair enough, fair enough. But guys, you've heard what Prasham and I have to say about the full, Ronaldo Bruno situation. When it comes to penalties, where Prasham believes that it's going to Ronaldo. I think anyone believes that it's going to Ronaldo. Free kicks, I think, would be more of Bruno's task, as we all hope. But do let us know what you think. Is it going to be something very similar to the Euros? Is it going to be how it was in the qualifiers? Is it going to be a different relation altogether? And let us know in the comments below. Do like, share, and subscribe. But we'll see you next time. Bye bye.